Love you.
Thank you. Yes. Hey!
Hey, what is up, headhunters and executive recruiters and beautiful people everywhere? This is David
Wait,
Stephen
no,
Patterson.
independent recruiters, staffing agencies, and headhunters also, brother.
Well, no, I'm not mentioning the group. I'm talking about headhunters and executive recruiters. I'm not mentioning the actual group.
That's Herc. That's Herc.
Well,
That's
yeah,
your
that's
name.
the headhunter recruiter community, and then there's independent recruiter staffing agencies and headhunters. Now I'm talking about headhunters, executive recruiters, and beautiful people everywhere. That's just a general blanket term. So,
But it's an acronym except for community. That would be like me saying, hello, independent recruiters, staffing agency, and headhunters.
do you have executive recruiters and headhunters in your group?
The URSA is an H at the end. It's IRSAH. And headhunters.
Do you have headhunters and executive recruiters in your group? You do.
Do you
So
have
my blanket
agencies
term.
in your group, David?
Huh?
Do you have
What?
independent recruiters and staffing agencies in your group?
I do.
It's a shame that we're bickering on what's today, David.
It's our 1 year anniversary. Oh, I didn't even know I did. Okay, hold on a second. This is David Stephen Patterson, DSP, Neil Lebovitz. Want to make sure I get that out of the way. And yes, it is our 1 year anniversary of the Headhunters and Boxers Talking Smack. It was 1 year ago today. We cracked the seal open, and we have had a hell of a run. We've had a lot of guests, a lot of really big name guests. Danny Cahill is probably one of our biggest. Mike Gianta. We had we had Drew Edwards, Terry Edwards. So we had the Edwards boys. We have had, who else have we had? We've had.
Oh wow, this is so. It's like thanking people at the Academy Awards. If you leave someone out, it's gonna be really offensive.
It's gonna be tough. I remember everybody, man. People. There's the animal. We had the animal on. We had Karen Sturgeon. We had the really good looking guy from Aquaman. What's his name again?
Right. Yeah, he was big.
Yeah, he was pretty big. A lot of people on, man. It was great. We had Mitch Robbins.
We had tons of people.
It's been fantastic. 1 year. And by the way, I will say this, folks, for those of you who I'm sure you know, so we kind of go live on YouTube, we go live on Facebook in the Herc, #Herc, and also in URSA, and on my personal page and my business page. But we are also going to be going live, not today, but next week we'll be live on LinkedIn for the first time ever, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome, David. I've been trying to get in and approved. I don't know why they're so stuck up with who they approve. It's got to be a year since I've been in the queue, and I'll write customer service once in a while. Well, you're in the list. Nothing.
I thought you were approved.
No, I don't understand. Like, you got to send, like, here's my group. I broadcast all the time. No, it's a nightmare. What's up?
Well,
how long did it take you?
It took me a while. So I tried to get in maybe a year ago or maybe a year and a half, whatever first opened up, and they turned me down like twice, and then I just dropped it, and then I went in last week and tried again, and a couple days later they approved me. So
why do they not want more people doing it? I don't understand. You're gonna only see your connection streaming, and you could unfollow or I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, look, I think they took one look at this, and they're like, we need more of this to bring in the users. You know what I mean? I think this was probably what stole it for me.
Yeah.
And you, Neil.
Yeah, I know.
I
know. Say no more. Say no more.
I mean, you're a beautiful man.
I'm sporting my regular glasses. I was told my reading glasses that I normally use, the round ones, smaller frame, don't look good on my fat face.
Oh, you like the bigger frame? Okay.
Right. Well, these are my progressives. These are real glasses that also have reading in the bottom. And the other ones were just reading glasses that I always wear so I could see the screen, because I'm freaking eyes are like dilapidating, like a bad wine turning to vinegar.
Getting old, man. Getting old is for the birds. I wouldn't know personally. I'm like 30 and I've been 30 for about like 15, 16 years now, but it's been a long year. But
Yeah,
otherwise, I
you're gonna
wouldn't
have
know.
to,
But
the
you
problem
look,
with you, brother, is you're gonna have to work out, and I know that you have been so far for your 30 years. You're gonna have to work out your whole life because there's nothing worse than like a 70-year-old man that used to be cut that get those that it all turns to like the loose skin and you're like a dribbly, loose-skinned ex-bodybuilder, you know?
it's why skincare is so important. It's why you can't tan too much. If you tan too much, you ruin your skin.
Right, right.
But I will say, Neil, you still look great. You do not look a day over decrepit. Not a day.
You're so sweet. You're so
I
sweet.
know.
Come on, I'm 57. I don't look 57, and I'm not being cocky. It was a curse forever for me. Like I got carded in the day when they never carded people. I got carded till I was like 30 years old. Like when I was 21 and the drinking, I was like, come on, dude, leave. Constantly coming up to me in bars saying, I got to see your ID. And it bothered me. And I remember what something was, you're going to love it when you're older. You're going to love it when you're older. And I love it when I'm older.
Dude, 100%. I actually, and also when you're older, you have so much more confidence. You don't care what people think anymore, and it gives you so much freedom. And when you're in your early 20s, you're dumb. You don't have the confidence. You care what people think. Like you're wearing something like some clothes or a shirt. You're thinking everybody's looking at me. Oh my god, and it paralyzes you. And then the older you get, to realize nobody's even looking at me. No one cares. So it kind of frees you to do really whatever you want and gives you that confidence, which actually counterintuitively, then people actually respond positively to that. And all the work that you did in your early 20s trying to be liked and be social or whatever, all of a sudden you quit trying when you're older, then it just happens. It's just the weirdest.
Oh, and what I had to do is I had to date for a lot younger girls because I looked a little younger. So I had no idea about like laws with age or whatever. So when I was 17, like probably the first girl I ever fell in love with, and she lied to me about her age, and she admitted she was 14 and I was 17. And then years later, I'm like, oh my God, did I commit statutory rape? And I was like, am I a rapist legally? And I found out that, like, luckily in the state, no, because you can do within 3 years of your age if they're underage. Because who thinks about that? Like, A, she lied to me. B, we were totally like, she was a mature 14. I mean, she smoked. That makes you mature. But I'm not a rapist. And I won't go on the air stating that. But no, but I was like, years later, I might have been like 30, and I'm like, oh my God, like because it was, you didn't think about it back then or whatever it was, but it's weird saying I dated. It's like Matt Gaetz when all his statements. He's like, I have never been with a 17-year-old as an adult, right? Like I've never been with a 14-year-old over 17. So yeah,
I will. We're going to tread carefully now, sir. But
I'm not
I
saying
will say
anything
this.
wrong.
No,
I was in love with
no. I
her.
know. It's just,
Yeah.
but I can see where somebody clip that out of context and being like,
Oh,
Neil is
totally.
this. He dates for. Like,
If
oh,
anyone
hold on a
cared
second.
about me and I was anything famous, I'd be all over Fox and CNN.
Oh, so
And with the headline.
they quickly they would trump you in a second, meaning take you out of context and clip the sound bites in a second. But that said, I do want to let everybody know here, by the way, that we do have a special guest today, and that's going to be Will Spengler, or as I'm sure he was called in his younger years, Spengler, because Spengler is probably one of the best names to, when you're young as a guy, you call people by their last name. I was like Patterson, Lebovitz. Spengler's a great last name to be like, yo, Spengler, give me
That's a
that
great
beer.
name. It's like a
Yeah,
rustler, like
it is.
it's like an adjective. Like what is it? What do you, or not an
Yeah,
adjective. What do you
Spengler.
do for a living? I'm a Spengler. I've been a Spengler for the
Yeah,
last 30 years of my life, and I'm gonna die a Spengler. Know what I mean?
that's
Like
right.
it's really
Spengler.
cool.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
can
like
you
it's
put
like it's
Mario
Wrangler,
R's
but you're
quote up
Spengler.
there, David? Could you put
What
Mario
was that?
R's post? Mario R
Oh
just
yeah.
posted. And I gotta say, Mario R was our very first viewer and a regular go-to viewer of the show. And Mario, shout out to you for sticking with us for a year, brother. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think about it. Actually, I appreciate it, Mario. You've been with us here for the very beginning. And I will say, by the way, guys, A couple things. If you guys have any questions or comments, put that in the chat. If you don't see it in the chats, we only see a couple chat streams on this thing, so we're trying to monitor. So if you don't see it, I apologize. I will say this. I do want to answer one question here. Someone asked, is there any advantage to going live? More people can access recordings. For those of you who want to start doing more media, when you go live, the algorithms push it. So if I just post up a video on Facebook, not many people would see it. If we go live, a lot of people see it, especially if they engage with it. And then the recording is still there, and that recording gets pushed by the algorithms. That's why we want to go live. Plus, it's just going live is a bit more fun. But that said, what can we say about Will Spengler before he gets here and has a chance to defend himself? Beyond,
bring him in, brother. Bring him in. Come in from the green
bring
room.
Him in?
Ladies, get ready for that button. Ladies and gentlemen,
All right.
in the green room, bring it on out. Our guest for today on our 1-year anniversary show, Will Spengler.
Oh my
Yo,
goodness.
Spengler. What's up?
What's up, guys? Thanks for the kind intro. I appreciate it.
Have you spangled anybody yet lately?
I'm a married man now, so those days are over.
Oh, so Spengler has that connotation. What was your nickname?
It could be.
growing up?
I was called Sticky when I was a kid, and then one of my nicknames at Adecco was Spam, and then my nickname at Tima was Honey Badger. So.
Oh my God! Anything to do with Spengler? Like, what were your twists? Like, I didn't have any good ones. I was
Spanglish. I got Spanglish a lot. Yep.
That's good.
Okay, so not Honey Badger, but how about Honey Spengler? How about that
Never got Honey Spengler. So
Honey Spengler.
What does spangling mean? Two spangles got to be a verb. I spangled most of my life, but now look at me.
It's messy that way. I don't want to. It's family show. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it is. It's kind of like a spackle. The spackle.
Yeah, I guess so. It's supposed
to
be
be
German.
Nicknames, but we don't want to get into that too much. I was Leba Vitz, so it was Leba Tits, Leba Zitz. My brother had love
Leba
handles.
Zitz.
Leba Hip. And then
Leba Hips.
So for me,
banana peel was the best they came up with.
Oh no.
Now for me, so if other people named David can relate to this. So growing up in the audience named David, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Super Dave, Davy Crockett. You know, those are kind of like, you know, Dave Crockett, Super Dave, all those are kind of pretty common if your name is David. But really, you know, when I was a kid, my biggest like nickname they used to get all the time was like Stud. I think it's because I was like, you know, I was like, you know, like I ran my neighborhood and I was like 10, and I was like, you know, I was like king 10-year-old pimp on the block, and you know, Stud.
You would look like I picture you with your body now with a 10-year-old little head on it and a big full beard. That's what I picture.
You were pimping at 10? Nice.
Yeah.
So Will, what's going on back there? Are those all live plants going on back there?
Yeah, I'm in our office. The coordinator up front, she hung this new thing, put a whole bunch of plants. It's supposed to breathe better oxygen. And,
I was gonna say, is it an oxygen?
You know, it's been working. The sales have been up, so it could just be the plants. It might not be the market. It could just be the plants.
Will, tell people about your background, like what you do, because you got a great story that's going to resonate with the viewers. Like, so just give everyone a quick update. I mean, you're the CEO of Frederick Fox, a really successful search firm. But what was Will before that? And we'll sort of get into the Will of today. And we're going to have some over moments.
Before Spangler's his story. Let me say this one little thing here. Will, so many of you know about the Herc. Will was one of the original peeps in the Herc way back in the day. I think back when he was with Atima, but way back in the day. It was Adecco. So one of the OGs, right? He was one of the first guys to download one of my guides way back in the day. So he's been with me since the beginning, and see his progression has been really cool. Now he's a business owner. He started Frederick Fox, and he's growing it, and it's really cool to see this. At the time, it was like snot-nosed little kid, junior guy, and all of a sudden he's like progressing, and started his business, and it's really neat to see the progression. So anyway, just want to give you that little bit of an intro for you. But Will, tell us, man. What's up?
Appreciate it. So yeah, I came out of college in 2011. So young guy, 33 this year. Before I got into the business, my first job out of college, I was a door-to-door salesman. I sold roofing for a year. So, um, and I had a degree in finance and accounting, computer science, minor in computer science, and I got a call from a Deco recruiting firm, and they said, "Come on in. We've got a cost accounting job for you." They were going to give me an accountant position. And when I got there, I was really confused meeting with a recruiter. I didn't understand why I was meeting with an agency and why it wasn't the job. I'd never heard of recruiting before. And the guy goes, "Hey, you're an accountant. You had experience as an accountant. I think you could be good as a recruiter, and I think you should consider joining a Deco." So I got into it in 2012. I started with a Deco. Neil would have been my boss's boss's boss, way up the line at the. So yeah, and I rode the bullpen of a Deco for 5 years. I was a top biller. I was top 10 in a Deco on the executive search side. I was doing accounting and finance, mainly perm. I started doing the lower level stuff, the customer service, accounts payable, accounts receivable, bookkeepers, payroll. Moved up to doing, staff accountants, senior accountants, accounting managers, controllers, CFOs, treasury tax.
And
Um,
every year you were
yeah,
top 10. You were
yeah, yep,
in the superstars. You were in the whatever the pres. You were in everything, right? And a team
yep,
of two.
yep.
Yep.
Yep. And then one day, 2017, I see this Facebook ad, and it's David Stephen Patterson, 2017. I'm a top performer at a Deco. I hated my life. I actually hated my life at a Deco. My wife at the time told me, is like, if you don't quit this job, I don't care that you're making. At the time, I was making 250 grand a year. I was 27 years old, something like that. I don't even know. I was training people. I was, all intents and purposes, I had a great job at Adecco and good benefits, good 401k, but I was miserable. I actually hated my life.
Yeah.
It got to a point where my wife said to me, "You either leave this job, or this marriage isn't going to work." Because I was stressed out. I'll be honest. I was to my brink at a Deco, and then one day I see this ad from David Stephen Patterson, and that was
Oh,
back when you were like super edgy when you first came out in 2017, man.
And you
And
also
you're
were able to call him
yeah,
David Stephen Patterson before we correct you that it's Stefan. Now you can't
yeah,
do that.
Stefan,
Even now it's
right?
bothering you.
And
You know.
it's this ad of David walking down the beach, and he's holding his thing, and he's like, "Are you a headhunter and executive recruiter? You should run your own business. I'll walk you through how to do everything." And when I saw that, I was like, "Man, who is this Guido?" Sorry, David, in Florida. And I thought it was like, I thought it was a scam, to be honest with you. I was like, "What the heck is this?"
Well,
probably was.
Will,
Oh,
fast forward to a year ago, a little more than a
yeah,
year ago.
yeah,
I also saw him all the time, man, and I'm like, I
yeah,
friggin' love this. Like, I love what he's doing. I love the shows. I love his whole
yeah.
DSP,
Oh, I love
meaning
it.
DSP and that's how
Yeah,
we started the show. That's how we
yeah,
just talked. I'm like, dude, I'd love to be part of your group and somehow add value. And he was so cool and got right back to me. We just had, I mean, people have heard the story before, but since it's our year anniversary, we had such a fun time on our initial call. He's like, dude, I know who you are. I'm like, well, I know who you are. Let's talk. He's like, absolutely. And we
yeah.
just had we were cracking up laughing for like an hour. And
Yep.
we're like, this
So
is, dude, we should do some
slid into
stuff
my
together.
DMs.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to you,
Into
Will.
my
So go
DM.
ahead.
Oh, no
So,
problem.
so
Sorry,
at that
sorry if
point, you're
I'm.
miserable.
Yeah, let me know if I'm rambling.
No,
Oh
bro,
no,
go
it's
for
all
it.
good. Everyone's
Okay.
resonating.
Okay.
Money isn't. We'll get into that. Money. You need enough
Yeah.
money to support what you do. After that,
Yeah.
money doesn't buy happiness. It's not the holy grail. And I
No,
could
it's
share
not.
stories, but
Yep.
it's not the holy grail. And you're
Yeah.
miserable, and you're young,
Yeah.
and you go through a
I'm young
midlife
at
crisis.
yeah. I'm still young, but so at the time I was like 27, 28. I'm working for a Deco. Along comes David, and that probably was like a big inflection point in my career as a recruiter. I was like, okay, maybe I can start my own business. At the time, David, you had all these like slides that just walked you through everything, and you were going to be the guy that was going to just work with independent recruiters. You've kind of involved that now. I think Ben Nader kind of took that vein a little bit, but
Oh, don't even
yeah,
make that comparison.
that's a plug. That's a plug. Yeah.
Oh, for
But
real? Do you think it should be plugged? Do you agree with the MO
yeah.
on that group?
So anyways, I was going to start my own agency in 2017, and I get kind of sidetracked with the whole TEMA thing. It was a opportunity to be in a 1099 model. They kind of got to me with some questions. Say, well, do you know how to set up insurance? Do you know how to set up your back office? Do you even know how to send an invoice? I didn't know how to do all those things, so I kind of said, all right, let's do the TEMA thing, and I did TEMA for about 2.5 years, almost 3. I made
Why
President's
didn't you go
Club.
on your own then, Will? Was it just mentally easier to not venture on your own because it was a little scarier, or maybe it was a step there? You've gone from studying to be an accountant, giving that all up, going now into a big company, and it just was too much to make that leap to just doing it?
Yeah, I think it was confidence at the time. I was always confident. I knew I could sell, but it took me a while to get to that point of just like there's something sobering about being fully on your own, starting your own business, starting your own shingle. And I just didn't have the confidence until 2 years ago to really get there, to be honest with you. So it took
You
me
know, the
eight
thing
eight
is,
years of agency, 8 years of agency before I finally did it. So
so thing is with the TEMA thing, and I know, Will, you and I have talked offline about this. You're right. It's that perceived risk. If you don't quite know what to do in a business, and so you go with a place like TEMA and pay a pretty big chunk of your billings, and they give you kind of a structure. But at the end of the day, it's actually not that difficult to start a business. I mean, it's in fact one of the lines I always used to say all the time is that you don't start a business knowing how to start a business. You learn how to start a business by starting the business. That's how you learn it. You just do it, and
yeah,
and you make mistakes along the way, and you break a few eggs here and there. But at the end of the day, and I'm sure you can attest that now. Now that you've been through, nothing wrong with TEMA, but now that you've been through that and you start on your own, you probably realize, oh, it's hard work, but it's not that scary. It's not as scary as people make it out to be.
No,
You
and
know,
you
or
can, not to throw in a plug, but you don't need to do that when you can use a company like me or anyone else that is back office staffing solutions provider. Like there's so many tools online that you don't need that, but it's a big thing for a lot of people. And there's people that watch this show that haven't fully made the plunge, and you just have to do it, right? So Will, so you performed only there. You were a top performer there yet again, so not a surprise. So is that what gave you the confidence in finally going to do it? And tell everyone what the time frame was when you did it, because you couldn't have picked a better freaking time to go on your own.
thanks, man. So I pulled the plug October 2019. I left TEMA for about 3 or 4 months before I left TEMA. I was building my database. I was trying to figure out how to send an invoice. I remember like practicing sending invoices to myself and seeing if the money would go through the bank accounts. I was like, I'm overly analytical. I'm an accountant that turned into a recruiter. So once I felt confident I could move money, and it sounds so simple, and you're right, it is really simple when you're on the other side. But when you're in the sauce, it's like, and these recruiting agencies do a good job. They keep their salespeople away from the back office operations. It's a good strategic tactic. But
But you joined October
yeah,
20th, 2019. I
yeah.
think the
So,
first
so
person that
2000,
started
yeah,
coughing,
yeah.
right?
So
The
I
first
started,
COVID case, they'd say kind of right around then, right?
yeah.
That's when it
So,
was first starting to trickle around.
yeah, so I started October 2019. Frederick Fox. Frederick's my middle name. Fox. My wife kept on trying to get a Fox into the name. It had the double F. I started with a Wix website. I actually didn't bill anything my first 3 months. So October, November, December, I didn't bill anything. I was shocked. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" I've been a top producer my whole life. It's been 90 days. I'm trying to convert all my clients. I'm trying to explain to them why they would get a better service coming over to Frederick Fox. They never heard of Frederick Fox. That whole period was tough, right? Because I started to get those looks like, "Hey, maybe you should go back to Deco," or Robert Half is pinging me. I had all the agencies in town saying, "Hey, you should just join us. You shouldn't do your own thing." I was like, you
and get
know,
a real
uh,
job.
yeah,
And
get a
but it
real
was
job, right?
tempting, but
Yeah,
wasn't it a bit
exactly.
tempting, Will? A bit
Yeah,
tempting. You're not quite billing. You have all the stress of a startup, and you have the
yeah,
comfort and security of
yeah,
what will pay you a good living. Even though you knew that world made you miserable, you were still tempted, weren't you?
yeah. Yep, I was tempted,
Well,
Yeah.
but
and
it's it's not safer because if you don't produce there, you're gone too. It's like
Well,
it's a
it,
same difference. You know what I mean?
it's a
That's
it's a false
looked at it.
it's a false sense of security, right? And but if at
100%.
the end of the day, if that makes you operate better mentally, then it's not a false sense, right? It really depends on the person, right? And it depends on your personality and your risk aversion, right? But yeah, so then January hit. I made 80 grand in January 2020, and then I made about 70 grand in February 2020, and I'm
And you're
off.
ready to roll, right? You're ready to
I'm
roll.
like, yeah,
Good.
I don't bill it. Yeah,
You're now
yep,
moving, and then you're going into March 2020, which that
yeah,
month and day year
yeah,
rings the bell to me. What happened to March? And then
yeah,
fucking COVID hits and
yeah,
everything. So yeah, talk about that because so many people can relate to what happened to you and your
yeah,
business then in your head.
yeah. Yeah, I remember telling my wife around like right before the pandemic news came out. I was like, "Babe, I was like, I think I finally found the back door. I think I finally figured this out. I had made 150 grand in 2 months, and then all of a sudden the carpet got pulled from me, and COVID happened, and I was kind of frozen. I'll be honest with you. At first, it took me some time to like snap out of it because all my clients said, "Hey, we're done." I had 3 fall offs immediately. So I immediately curved back down to like 99 year to date. So I lost like 60 grand in billings immediately when COVID happened. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I actually didn't bill anything from March 2020 to September 2020. So I went 5 or 6 months without any revenue.
And you know
And,
what, Will? It was becoming almost with you, and we talked a bit
yeah,
of a self-fulfilling prophecy because you were really letting it in your head. And it's amazing because of all the success you had, you
yeah,
were you were close to getting defeated with everything. And if you can get defeated with what you did, how does anyone come out of that? So you could have you were on a precipice. How and so a lot of people, it would be game over. How did you overcome that? And flash forward to today, where you're just freaking killing it, and you got a giant team, and you're a respected guy in the community. Like, how did you? And people that are even feeling that now, like it's still not clicking. They're seeing all the news that COVID is done and stuff that we're going to talk about on the news. How'd you do that? And what? And so just talk about it, not to be an Oprah moment, but it's something. And I think it's a story.
Sorry, I'm getting a
You
little
know,
emotional. Yeah, not
it was
yeah,
a lot of people were like you were a
yeah,
lot and still
yeah.
are. So what's the message to those that still are?
You know,
And tell them the story.
I, I I think it was just. Sorry.
Yeah, right. I mean, but
Yeah.
everyone can relate well, right? So everyone,
Man.
Yeah.
there's so many
I.
people that I talk to
Yeah.
offline that are still like, oh, I see the news on this, I see it on here, but they're doing that, and they're questioning what they do for a living, right? So, but
Yeah.
again, it's a
I.
great news, great story. So, and you're there, so you
Yeah.
should be. It's emotional because
Yeah.
you freaking
Yeah.
beyond
It,
success
it,
story.
it was tough for me too because I had a 1 and a 3-year-old at the time, and what I needed to do was I just started working 7 days a week. I'll be honest. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go for a run. I started getting up at 5. I was like, there's nothing that's going to take me down. I've been 9 years. I've been doing this. I've worked for other people. I put my time in. I've grown teams. I was like, so I mentally had to click over. I just had to say, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm all in. I'm going to buy all the tools. I took out a $10,000 credit line. I went into a lot of debt. I'll be honest with you, probably like not a lot. It's just relative. Probably about 15 grand worth of debt. And I was like, I'm going to double down. I'm going to send marketing emails. I'm going to work from 5 a.m. till I was working till 11 o'clock at night, 6, 7 days a week. Uh, you know, and I started to reach out to a lot of mentors. I started to, you know, I reach out to you, Neil. I reach out to you, DSP, a lot. I have a lot of other mentors and coaches in my circle. I got a lot of encouragement. There was a couple splits I did with people that like saved me. There's a guy named James Aiken in the Herc, want to become a really good friend. We did a couple deals in 2020 that I look back on them like, man, I probably would have folded if we didn't do a split. And it's amazing, and then around November, October, November, December, I was back billing again. So like, when I look at 2020, I made about 232,000 in 2020. That's where my tax return ended. So it wasn't a terrible year. Like when you look back at it, you're like, oh, I still made 230 grand in 2020. But I think there was a lot of there was a roller coaster there, and there was a lot of doubt because I had just started my business. So, anyways, I got through that period of time. So
So
now I will say this, Will. Let me ask you this.
yeah,
Um, one thing that I see a lot of times is that you get folks who do well, but then they have pressure and they fold under pressure. And so it sounds like, for you were in the situation to get a loan and you're kind of, your back was against the wall. I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Obviously, it's very emotional for you, which is great for our ratings. So keep it up. Thank you very much. Just kidding. But your back was against the wall. And in a lot of ways, you had a gun to the head. And I think, at least for me, but I think it's very motivating. But do you feel as if maybe that was a big turning point for you, where you feel like you got a gun to the head, and you make a decision? Do you fold, do you go back, or do you forge ahead and damn the torpedoes? So if you could talk about that mindset, because that, for me, I've been there before, and for me it's always been very motivating. And I'm
yeah.
curious how you thought about that gun to the head moment.
Yeah, you always said it's amazing what a gun to the head can do, right? And that was the whole reason I wanted to go out on my own and start a business. Is like I wanted to know what it was like to be in the arena and to have my back up against the wall. It's like I wanted to know what I was made of, right?
flight or
Somebody,
flight or fight,
yeah,
right?
fight or flight, and somebody on the Herc posted earlier today, like, hey, I've got 2 kids, I'm struggling to focus. And like one of my comments, I can be a little bit brash in my comments sometimes, but I think the mentality is like, just deal with it. Like just you're tired, your kid kept you up all night, you've got 3 presentations the next day. Like, I think you just got to click over to say, I'm going to own it. Like, I'm just going to win. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from winning. I'm going to win. And you just got to get into that mindset.
Look,
And
look,
if you
our
don't mistake,
ancestors made it to the moon with a computing power, with less
Yeah.
computing power than what you find in a desk calculator. You know what I mean? We built a country through blood. People have bled. People have climbed Everest. If you can't stay another hour at work and get a little bit less sleep, maybe you don't deserve it. That's the way I look at it.
you know what, because
It's almost like it's paying your dues in a lot of ways.
and
Yeah.
there's cliches like what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, and all those things that we've heard about. But adversity and being at a point where you have that pain of a job that you hate and what that does to you mentally, and then going through where you can quit and question everything about yourself, which I've been there. Oh, I'll tell that another story. It's like we've all been there. And that's what makes you so much stronger. Like you wouldn't be where you are today, I don't think. Just talking from my perspective, without having back to the Adecco days, without having that and have overcome that. That's what, regardless of any tools or tricks or things that we talk about on these shows that people do, right? That's what makes you you, and that's what makes Frederick Fox where it is today.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And going into this year, I mean, that's where I hit a new gear, I think, in 2020. I learned that I could work longer hours, I could focus harder, and I learned that I could do 20 handoffs in a week. I could sell 2 to 3 job orders. I could do 5 presentations. Like, I think a lot of it comes down to focus. Is are you focused, and are you actually making the phone calls? And automation is one thing. I do a ton of it, but are you actually making the phone calls, and are you focused, and are you holding yourself accountable? And so I think I learned a new gear in 2020 that comes into 2021. The market's just absolutely on fire. I was lucky enough to have a really good friend join the business named Rob Thomas, who's
Not from
I'm not,
Matchbox, not
yeah,
from different
yeah,
Rob Thomas, not the singer.
yeah, not from Matchbox
I
20.
know Rob. I know.
So it's not a one-man band anymore. We're actually a 7-person team at Frederick Fox. I'm trying to get the business to 12 people right now. I'm we're trying to add recruiters, and we're trying to build a really disruptive model where a recruiter would want to join our business, right? Because everybody wants to go independent now. So that's been a challenge, is trying to create a business model that is attractive to other recruiters. So once I kind of figured that out and kind of figured out and my value proposition to other recruiters, I think that's where we started to attract people. Where we're at now, I mean, our business we're flooded with job orders. I mean, I've never been so busy in my career. It's fantastic. The market's on fire. We're on track for, we did 350,000 in Q1. I billed about 245 grand myself in Q1. So I don't know. I'm off to a big year, and I'm just trying to get other people on the wagon, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
So.
Will, and it's not just focus, because that's dead on. Like what you did, and I remember when I got the call from you. You said you reached out to a ton of people, as you put in your commentary here. I remember thinking when you called me, you were very direct, right? And you're like, I want your help. Like, give me some tips. What would you do? What would you focus on? And we got into, hey, that was good stuff. You reached out to a lot of people, and I'm thinking, wow, look at this guy with the success, and we talked about our deco roots and our managers that we knew, and yet you're still, and it's a strength that the successful people have, the ability to put an ego down and say, I need to do things differently, or think differently, or be open to go to the DSP stuff, to talk to the mentor, to talk to that other person that you now have this great relationship with, because you're not above that. And that's not an easy thing to do. When I was always hiring recruiters, it was a rare trait, but when I found that in people, I knew I had like a winner, right? I mean, it's a big thing. People need to constantly change and develop. And you mentioned tools and marketing, but you did a lot differently, even though you already had it nailed years ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm always surprised that people don't reach out. Even when I worked for big firms, I was always reaching out to the big billers. Like, what the hell are you doing? How are you billing $1 million? Like, walk me through your day. What time do you wake up? How many phone calls do you make a day? I'm always shocked other recruiters don't a lot of recruiters think that every recruiter thinks they're the best recruiter in the world. Let's just be honest.
There's too much ego in this business. There's a ton of ego in this business.
There's a ton of ego in the business. It's crazy. So my style is I know there's a lot better people than me. I mean, look, my business will do $1.3 million this year. That's a small nothing business, right? That's a nothing business. When you start talking to people that are running 20, $25 million businesses, they've got 60 recruiters. Okay, then you start talking to people like you, Neil. You were the president of Adecco. That's a $16 billion publicly traded. So there's a lot of room to grow, right? So that's the way I've always looked at it, is like, I'm nothing. I've got a lot of room to grow. So
you also have to be willing to reinvent yourself. I think a lot of I think success oftentimes could be your own worst enemy, because you have some success, you taste it, and you think, oh, okay, this is how it's done, and you lock onto that, and then times change. COVID-19 happens, the my Coronavirus, as I call it, the economy tanks, you lose clients, whatever, things happen, and then and things, you don't evolve with the times. So I think it's important that not only do you keep going back to the well and keep learning from other people, but also be willing to reinvent yourself and try new things. I mean, one thing I think I've been fairly good at is, well, the reinvention for sure, but also trying new things and willing to look stupid to see what works. And I think I know you have that. I know Neil has that. I do. And I think you have to be willing to fail really badly, because I think sometimes once you have success, you get so scared of failure, not willing to grow beyond that.
Yeah, and and what you do, David, is it's about constantly raising the bar, and it goes back to what Will said. Like, look, wow, I'm making $1 million now, and I was doing this before. But the real answer is, well, wait a minute. There are people doing $20 million a year. They're not any smarter than me. You, Will, you DSP. They're not. Like, what are they doing? And that's what I want to aspire to. So if you're billing $200,000 and you're, well, what's Will do? I can do that if I'm gonna put everything aside. When I started at Robert Half, and I was an accountant too, I was a CPA for Ernst & Young, hated it, miserable like you, Will. Just freaking, I mean, I hated being an accountant. And I just remember seeing all these different billers, different levels. And I said, and I read all these books, I'm gonna see what all of these people, like, what is this person's trick? what did they do really well? I can do whatever anyone's doing if I just try to figure out what it is. Like, what do they have? A gift of like, what? Wow, this one's amazing. Look at what he does with his client. Wow, look at how this one does their research. Oh my God, look at how this one is always asking networking questions. It's not hard to learn. I'm like, I'm taking that from this one. I'm taking this from this one. I'm taking that from that one. And it's not rocket science. But the hard part is actually doing that, right? And modeling and raising that bar. Because as human beings, we are limited by our expectations. And I don't want to get too holistic, but it's proven, industrial psychiatrists, right? Whatever we think in our head is that number, you can't perform better at anything. You can't break the 4-minute mile that we've talked about. If your expectation is it's unbeatable, right? It will never happen. The second everyone knows it is the second that record gets shattered all the time. We're limited mentally.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also, one thing I've noticed as well is that some of my biggest leaps of when I've taken things, lessons from other industries, right? So whether you look at, say, SaaS sales or software sales, whatever, but things that maybe go against the grain in the recruiting world, sometimes one of my biggest aha moments were from those areas. And so it's not even just looking at what people are doing and looking at new techniques, but try to look at other areas, other industries completely removed from ours and seeing, are there parallels? Can I take something from here that no other recruiter is doing, right? Because I'm looking at this, how can I apply to my business and be unique? And that's one thing I think that's been very, very powerful for me. And I think it's a good lesson for anybody.
I think one of the biggest aha moments once the business started growing for me was, and back to what you said, Neil, and you'll never get too foo-foo for me or holistic for me. I love that stuff. So is sometimes you've got to plant your flag and say, here's the value that I bring to the table, and here's the value that I have and what our business has, right? And you have to believe in yourself before other people are willing to follow you and get on board with your mission, right? I think there's, I was an independent recruiter, and you have to take a step back and say, well, what offer can I create where somebody would want to come join me, or like, why if why would I join myself, right? And I started brainstorming, like, what business model would make sense for me to join another recruiting firm, right? Where would I lay down my ego and join another recruiting firm, right? So I started to think about all those things and created an offer for recruiters to join. But I think that's been a big, and it bleeds into how you talk to your clients and how you talk to your candidates. Is like, here's my value, here's what I do. I'm looking to partner with people that want my solution, that want to work with me, that understand why I do certain things. And it's not because I want it because I'm greedy and I want to be controlling. It's, I know that this is effective. I've been doing this for 10 years. Help me. You're helping me help you by allowing me to do what I do. And I think it's a different mindset of, it sounds cheesy. It's like, well, do I want you as a client? I'm not trying to come across as like that, but it's setting your own standards of who you are, what you bring to the table, and how you're going to operate. And other people can either get on board or not. I mean,
so Will,
switching
slightly, if there's someone out there.
Let me just one thing, because I think you touched on something, Will, and you breezed by it, but I want to bring it back up because I think a lot of people who are trying to build a firm don't realize this. You mentioned what's like creating an offer for the recruiters. People think about the offer for the clients. Like, what do I have? What value do I bring to a client? Why would a client work with me as opposed to all the other random recruiters out there? Why would a candidate want to work with me as opposed to all the other random recruiters out there? But what they do not think about is they do not think about, well, what is the offer you're putting out for other recruiters? Why would somebody who has talent and it could be a great biller, why not only why wouldn't they go out on their own, but why wouldn't they go to Korn Ferry or Robert Half or any other firm out there, as opposed to the Spengler show, which when you first started, it's just the Spengler show. What value do you have, right? And you have to think about what value prop do you have other recruiters, and people don't think about that. And as one of the biggest stumbling blocks thing for new recruiters trying to build a firm, they hire a recruiter and they fall off after a few months, and it just repeat. It's a revolving door. Because why? Because you keep hiring people that go from firm to firm to firm to firm to firm. You think, well, maybe here they'll be successful. No. And so I think you got to have that offer. And you touched on it, but I want to make sure that people
can really and in fact, Will's MO for building Frederick Fox is to make that the home where recruiters won't want to work anywhere else. that crack that nut and the business grows. And then of course they get all of his expertise. And how does this, like, you want to work and model under someone that has billed $250,000 when they were made $250,000 regular when they were 24 years old. So Will, if someone, and you weren't on the show for this, but if someone that you're resonating with wants to talk to you about joining Frederick Fox, and again, this isn't at all the purpose of it. Don't even know that I was going to ask this. How do they reach out to you? Like, just reach on Facebook or whatever? Because I think you'd offer so many people so many great options if they want to still be independent, but get the best of everything and really master their craft. Yeah,
thanks for the plug. I appreciate it. You can you can go to my website, www.frederickfox.com. You can go to my LinkedIn. I've got all my information on there. I check my LinkedIn like a hawk. I check my Facebook like a hawk. It's pretty easy to find my contact information, or call 602-316-3743, or you can email me at wspengler@frederickfox.com. So,
fantastic.
All right. Well, look, I
think it's time for us to do some news. What do you think?
I think it's news time.
Jam on. Here we go, guys.
Everybody in the news today, May 7th, 2021, 1 year anniversary. 1 year ago today, David, Stephen Patterson, and Neil Leibovitz created Headhunters with Boxers Talking Smack. Several months later, the news segment came in, and we're going to bring you the news today. Hey, so guys, a lot of quick stories today. Lots of good stuff in the last week. A lot of good statistics, good information. One of them that I love, and as always, Will chime in on anything that you think about with this, but we just talk about some of these news. These things, again, these are always good for you to know so that you could talk about them with potential people that you recruit, talk about them with clients. And some of these, like this one, is just for you to, again, it's about resetting that bar. So consumer confidence, highest level since February now of 2020. All right, so it's rebounded sharply over the last couple of months. It's at its highest level, right? And this is right from the conference board that measures all this. So, consumers said more consumers said jobs are plentiful than they were last year, right? And many fewer people said jobs are harder to get when we look at the job site. So that's a great number. Consumer confidence highest since February. Surprising? This soon? I didn't expect that. I certainly knew it would be higher in March or April than it was during the pandemic, but we're now talking about pre-pandemic. Surprise.
Yeah, but you know what? Though, I don't take a lot of so with the consumer confidence index. It's important, but I don't take a lot of. I don't put a lot of stock in it necessarily in the sense that if you've been locked down for a year and no job or the economy looks bleak and now you're kind of out of the house, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm not saying the economy isn't on good footing. It is, or it's getting there. But at the same time, on the consumer confidence index, I don't put a lot of stock in it because it's something that coming out of a lockdown is a different perception versus, let's say, for example, the economy may not have been as good back then, but they have a better perception because they've been locked in their freaking closet for a year. And they're out.
No, of course. But the sentiment's very important for an economy. As a macro guy, sure. And I used to be on tons of TV shows when I was president of Agilon and when I was global president, it has an incredibly important effect on candidates willing to switch jobs, candidates being open opportunities, clients being willing to hear about new talent. I'm saying from a macro level. But I agree with you. You nailed it. Totally. Of course, the perception's way different, and now it's high. It doesn't mean that market is strong like that at the highest level, right? But it's a great one of the signs that I always would look for. But totally, I agree with what you said 100%, David. 100%.
Am I still on the air?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Oh, can I weigh in?
You left for a second.
You don't even have to
I got from a micro perspective, I mean, the job market's on fire. I was reading it was 6% unemployment, and then you got degree professionals down to 4.5%. Back in 2019, we had gotten down to like 3%, right? But it's actually a tighter job market now. It feels like from a micro perspective than it was back in 2019. I mean, it's crazy how hot the job market is right now. From somebody that's doing the day-to-day recruiting, it's people are really reluctant to leave jobs. Companies are hiring like crazy. The wages haven't shifted quite yet. People haven't woken up to the fact that we can't get talent like we could in 2020. They still think that there's this bucket of talent out there. It doesn't exist. Um, it, it's it, it's a tough time to get delivery on job orders, and most companies, I mean, you got to have a crazy amount of recs right now. It's a hot job market.
A lot don't, and that's what this show's about, because there should be.
Yeah.
One of the other stories, to your point, Heidrick and Struggles, retained search firm, they get hit the hardest in slowdowns. I mean, you're talking about, retained upfront fees of 50, 60, 100, 200, 300, $400,000. Their revenues, as just another news story, I said a lot of statistics, their revenue is now up 10%. And they received great, double-digit improvements sequentially, year over year, and broad-based. They can't even pick to any area, all businesses and all geographies. And they said it just represents the massive rebound and the success of the market. And I think another great story, and their guidance for the second quarter. Now that's going over COVID, but they're expecting 50. This is guidance. You don't mess with guidance when you're a public company and you're a Heidrick. 50% growth is what they're telling people, right? So, really, really good news. And their stock went up significantly for it. But I just think it's great for all of us to hear stories like that.
Oh, for sure it is. Well, I mean, if you want confidence, or as an owner, or really as a recruiter, going into the year, you want to be confident that there is business out there. I think though that I think a lot of companies, and it's not a plug for me or anything like that, but maybe it is. But a lot of companies are doing new things for their marketing and business development, and developing new ways to get in touch with clients, and developing new relationships. And I see, well, for example, here's Will, right? Will's coming out of a horrible 2020, having a kick-ass 2021, and those firms who Will may have competed against last year, who may have their eye off the ball right now, and Will's eye is on the ball. You need to have your eye on the ball, because there's a lot of young, hungry punks like Will Spengler who are willing to steal your lunch and eat it right in front of you, and then go home with your mom, right? And so, so I think everybody who is listening to this needs to think about that. What can you do to be the next Will Spengler and overtake your competitors? Or what are you looking at their competitors, seeing what they're doing? Because a lot of firms are changing the way they approach the market this year. A lot of them.
Yeah, I'll do a quick plug, and I said I wouldn't give away any proprietary. It's not even proprietary, but I think one of the things we've been looking at is our messaging. We started to hire a copywriter. We're also trying different approaches of capturing business, and I think just tweaking a few things, trying different messaging has really brought in a lot more business as well. But yeah, to your point, someone reached out to me the other day. They're like, how are you surviving as a recruiter at these times? And I'm thinking in my head, I've never seen a hotter job market in my entire life. I was like, what the hell? I was like, you send a marketing email, you're getting a job order. I mean, what, you got to get off the hangover. I mean, the market's on fire.
Well, and every indicator, and this goes to another story, I said our stats. The CEO of TechServe Alliance, a guy named Mark Roberts, I know him. I've done a lot of work with them there. But they track everything with IT and engineering, and I know there's lots of IT people in our groups in engineering. And I talked about this on the last show. The most recent news, this just came out on May 4th, so just a couple of days ago. But that they're expecting there to be a continued massive uptick to get back to all pre-COVID levels, when the market was the hottest that it's ever been. They expect things to continue to grow and be at all-time now levels by like June or July. And his quote is funny. It's almost what you said exactly, Will. He said, the primary challenge we experienced before the onset of COVID confronts us again: an insufficient supply of talent in many IT skill sets. And we're there. It's confronting us. Right. So, they're saying this is underscoring a systemic long-term challenge with no ready solution, except for us recruiters, for the shortage. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a game of, can you get your candidates to stick? Will they retain? it's, salaries are going to go through the roof in Q3 and Q4. It's going to be a good time to be a recruiter. It's just going to be hard to deliver.
Right. For those of
Very
you
true.
doing temporary staffing, and I bring it up on the news every show, not because I can help you do temporary staffing. Will, you do temporary staffing. That's not your thing.
Yeah.
You use a back office. You make that part of your business model. So if we look at now where we were versus last year, this one's from Bullhorn Indicator, which is a great one. They're still the largest ATS. Hours worked now in commercial staffing. So that's largely industrial. But it will also be office and clerical, rose 24%, right, compared to a year ago, right? IT professional staffing, so IT, healthcare, finance, they increased 36%, right? If you compare it to 2 years ago, up 26%, right? So healthcare driving a ton of that, and portions of IT staffing up double digits. So it's a business everyone needs to be in. You don't need to master it. Someone like me will help you with it as your partner to coach you. Find someone to do it. You got to get in it. The market's really hot, and you need to capitalize on as much as you can.
Hey, we're talking to Boss later today. So
You don't have to say
No,
that.
read the caption down there, everybody.
Yeah.
Do not listen to this plug. Shut your ears.
I
am just kidding, Neil. Here you go. Hey, by the way, and if you want to download Neil's awesome ebook, go to his website, backofficestaffing.com/staffing. And I guess I'll go and throw in mine as well. So obviously, as most of you folks know, I focus on the sales and marketing piece of things. So if you want to deploy sales and marketing system, a seamless system across your business, whether you want to teach how to do it and provide support, or we will do it for you, you can get a price by going to the digitalheadhunter.com/assessment. And also, a couple other things. I am coming out with a new training here in about a week. It's gonna be rocking. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be on LinkedIn Live next week. We're coming out with a podcast here shortly, next week or two. And lastly, for Mr. Will Spengler, if anybody's interested in reaching out to Will, go to frederickfox.com. frederickfox.com. By the way, I have a client, all right, an old client from back in the day named Fred Fox. And
Yeah.
I'm like, he's kind of pissed off that you.
Right. Maybe I'm helping his sales. Maybe, his sales have gone up maybe. So
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say for this show, we spent a solid hour of genuine spangling.
Thanks for the time.
Man,
I can't believe I made the cut.
Right?
Thanks, guys.
Oh, pleasure. Great show. Really enjoyed it.
Hey, everybody. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Will, for being on. Thank you for spangling us with your spectacular advice, whatever your story. Sorry, I lost my track of my thought there. But that said, thank you everybody for being on the show, for listening to the show. Thank you for being on it. Thank you, Neil, for being my co-host and all that kind of jazz. My brother from another mother. And guys, this is it. We'll be here next week. And that said, see you guys later.